Hey everyone, in this video we are going to learn how to use the DOM to work with our HTML element. So to do anything with any HTML element, first we need to find them in the DOM tree and select them. So to select elements, we can do it by their class name, by ID, by tag name like age1, p, and etc. and more. But let's start with the ID, which is the easiest way of doing it. So I've placed an element in the HTML of this file, and it has the ID of blue box. If you want to check it out, you can just go to Visual Studio Code, or you can just use the inspector. So right click, inspect, here it is. You can see that this is the element with the ID of blue box. So going back to the console, let's try to get the text inside this element and send it to the console. And let's also try to change its content. One cool thing is that we don't need to go back and forth to Visual Studio Code anytime we want to test something, because we can do it directly from the console. If you're just testing some commands, if you're just writing them for the first time, you can do it here. Then when you understand how they work, you can go to your JavaScript file and write them. Let's remember that nothing that we write here is going to be saved. So this is just for testing purposes. Alright, so to select this element, the first thing we need to use is the document object. So again, be careful because JavaScript is case sensitive. The document object is written like this with all letters in lowercase. So document is that object at the top of the DOM. So inside it, we have a few methods that we can use. Don't worry about understanding this now about methods, because when we talk about objects, then this is going to be clear. For now, just know that to run methods, we need to use the dot. So document dot. Now the name of the method we are trying to use is get element by ID. So you can see that Google Chrome is helping us out here. You can just press tab to auto-complete it. And now again, we just open and close parentheses. So you can see that this is a common pattern in JavaScript. Let me just enlarge this a little bit. So now inside parentheses and inside quotation marks, we need to pass the ID of the element that we are trying to select. So the ID is blue box, actually with an underscore, like this. Be careful with these letters in caps. So element by ID, they all start with caps. The get is all lowercase. Now that we've selected this element, let's try to get its content using a property called inner. So all lowercase and now HTML all uppercase. If we do this and hit enter, so as you can see, the text inside this box was returned to us when we ran this command. So we selected this element and then we got its inner HTML. So now that we know how to get the content of an HTML element, it's also useful to know how do we change content of an HTML element. So this is going to be really similar. We can just copy all this, but now instead of just getting it, we can use the equal sign and define something that will go inside it. So let me open and close quotation marks. Again, don't worry about all these parentheses, dots, quotation marks. When we start talking about data types in the next few lessons, this is going to be very, very clear. So for now, just follow along. Let's try to change the content of this element. So let's write something like test. And now when we hit enter, we can see that we just changed the content of this element using JavaScript. And we don't have to send just pieces of text. We can also send other HTML elements inside it. So if we, instead of just sending text, we sent something like this. So age1, and here closing the age one. Now let's try again, and now we can see that we have an age one inside it. So now that we know how to do this, let's just copy this command, Ctrl C. Now let's refresh the page. So as you can see, nothing we write here is saved. The page is back to normal. Now let's go back to our file. So let's get the text inside this box, send it to the console, and let's also change the content. So going to the scripts file, actually I'm gonna leave this comment here. Something that I like doing is adding comments to know which lesson we are at. So we are at lesson 4. Working with the DOM, so you can organize this the way you think it's better for you. I just like doing this. So now let's try to run this command from our file. We can also comment this with Shift-Alt-A, just so it's not executed every time in the console. So now the first thing we want to do with the content of that box is just sending it to the console. That was the first thing that was asked. So console.log. Now inside here, instead of writing a text, we're going to write this full comment. Let's see what happens. Saving this, refreshing the page, we're able to send to the console the content of that element. So now let's try to change it. So after getting it and sending it to the console, now we're going to change it. So let's erase this. Now use the equal sign, and inside quotation marks, let's try sending an age one again, like this, testing. And now, just out of curiosity, let's run this command again at the end, and let's see what happens. So first, it just got the original content and sent it to the console. Then it changed the content inside it. And now we just got the content again and we are sending it to the console. So this seems like a silly example, but this is just the starting point to understand how to work with elements and their content. And like I said, what is the use of sending all these stuff to the console? Well, this is just for testing purposes. By using the console, we can see that this is working. So now we can start applying this on other situations. So before going too crazy and start changing all the HTML elements of our page, there are some basic fundamentals of JavaScript that we need to learn before we move ahead. So if you go to the index, you can see that we are going to talk about variables and data types before we do our first list of exercises. So this is going to be easy, but this is super important so we know what we are doing when we are working with JavaScript. So I'll see you in the next video so we can get started.